Hey, welcome to What the Tech. This is where we cut through all the hype to get to the tech news you can actually use. So let's just dive right in.
So let me ask you something. Are you being recorded right now? I mean, it's a question that feels kind of creepy, but also more and more real every single day, right? You get that little prickle of anxiety in a coffee shop or on the street, that feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone's filming you, and you have no idea. Well, guess what? That feeling? It isn't just you being paranoid. We've officially entered the era of, get this, luxury surveillance. Yeah, we're talking about these sleek, smart glasses from big names like Meta and Snap. They look so much like normal glasses that it's basically impossible to tell if the person sitting across from you is just, looking at you, or if they're secretly recording everything you're doing. But as this surveillance tech gets smaller and sneakier, people are starting to push back. And one developer in particular has created an app that's designed to try and level this incredibly uneven playing field.
And this is the guy behind it, Yves Jean Renault. And he does not mince words. He calls this stuff an intolerable intrusion, consent-neglecting, horrible piece of tech. I mean, you can tell he sees this as a huge threat to our privacy and consent. So what did he do? He built something to fight it.
And this is what he made. It's called Nearby Glasses. It's a pretty simple Android app, but it's got a super focused goal: to scan the airwaves around you and give you a heads up if a pair of smart glasses might be nearby. Okay, but the why behind this app is what's really important here. This wasn't just some fun coding project for him. Jean Renault was seeing these reports of these glasses being used for some pretty serious stuff. We're talking about in immigration raids, to fill and harass sex workers, not to mention that some of these glasses now have facial recognition turned on by default. So for him, this app was a direct response to what he calls privacy-invasive behavior.
Okay, so the idea is great, right? But how does the app actually work? Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
All right, so the secret sauce here is something called the Bluetooth Manufacturer Identifier. The easiest way to think about this is like a digital license plate. Every single Bluetooth device out there is constantly shouting out a little public code that says, "Hey, I was made by Meta," or "Snap made me." This isn't some shady hack, by the way. It's just a basic part of how Bluetooth is built.
So the process is actually super straightforward. First, the app is just constantly scanning for any and all Bluetooth signals in your area. Then, it takes a look at those digital license plates and checks them against a list of companies that we know make smart glasses. And if it finds a match, boom, it pings your phone with an alert. That's it. Simple.
Okay, but this next part is absolutely crucial to understand. This is all about what the app can and what it can't do. So, what it can do is tell you the manufacturer. It's great at that. It can say, hey, there's a device made by Meta near you. But here's what it can't do. It has no way of knowing if the camera is actually recording. None. It can't even tell you for sure if it's a pair of glasses or, say, Meta's VR headset. All it does is flag the potential for surveillance. It is not proof.
So, knowing all that, a reporter over at TechCrunch decided to take this app out into the real world and, put it through its paces.
So for the first part of the test, they just walked around town scanning specifically for Meta and Snap glasses. And the result was pretty much nothing. No alerts. But then they got clever. See, the app lets you add your own manufacturer IDs to the watch list. So they put in Apple's ID, and their phone basically exploded with notifications.
No, I mean literally flooded with alerts. And why? Because now the app was picking up every single iPhone, every pair of AirPods, every Apple Watch in the vicinity. And you know what? This was actually a perfect test because it proved two things at once. First, yep, the app works exactly like it's supposed to. But second, it shows the massive problem with false positives if your search is too broad.
By the way, if you're finding this useful and you like how we break this stuff down, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to What the Tech. We really want to know what you think about all this, so drop us a comment below.
All right, so with all that said, what's the bottom line here? What do you really need to know if you're considering downloading an app like this?
Let's just boil it right down. This app, it's an awareness tool. Think of it like an early warning system. Its whole job is just to make you a little more cautious. What it is not is a magic privacy shield. It is not a recording detector, and it's definitely not some kind of legal tool.
So, if you do decide to give it a shot, here are some practical tips. First off, stick to just searching for the specific IDs from Meta and Snap. That'll save you from that avalanche of alerts. Also, a good idea is to test it at home with a device you already own, just so you know what an alert actually feels and sounds like. Oh, and be warned, having it scanned constantly is going to hit your battery life for sure. And if you do get a real alert out in the wild, well, the advice is pretty common sense. You can just move away, you could politely ask the person if they're recording, or just make a note of the situation.
You know, when you zoom out, this one little app really opens up a much, much bigger conversation we need to be having about the future of privacy in our public spaces. Even the developer, Jean Renaud, he gets that this isn't a magic fix. He calls it a technical solution to a social problem, and I think that's a really powerful way of looking at it. He knows his app isn't going to solve the root problem, but he sees it as a desperate act of resistance. It's something he built just hoping it might help at least one person feel a little more in control, a little bit safer. And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? As this camera technology gets smaller and smaller and basically invisible, whose job is it to protect our privacy? Is it on the big tech companies? Should the government be stepping in with new laws? Or is it ultimately up to us, you and me, to find our own ways to resist and push back? That's the conversation this is all about. Thanks for tuning in.